They sold over 120 million records worldwide. Rumours moved 40 million copies and won Album of the Year. Dreams hit #1, their only chart topper ever. They filled stadiums across 5 continents. Then members were divorcing each other while making their biggest album. They couldn't share an elevator. Lindsey Buckingham got fired in 2018. Christine McVie died in 2022. Stevie Nicks said they'd never reunite. Decades later, they were still at war over the name, the legacy, the money. This is the story of how success destroyed the very harmony that created it. A tale of 5 people who made magic together, then watched love turn toxic until nothing remained but songs about the wreckage. But to understand the collapse, we have to go back to London, 1967. London in 1967 wasn't glamorous. It was smoky clubs, bad pay, and fighting to be heard over 100 other bands. Rock wasn't a dream. It was survival. Peter Green left John Mayall's Blues Breakers, already respected as one of Britain's best guitarists. He was the visionary. He recruited Mick Fleetwood on drums, the engine, the backbone. Then came John McVie on bass, the craftsman who locked in with Fleetwood like they shared one heartbeat. Jeremy Spencer rounded out the lineup as the wild card. They named it after the rhythm section. Fleetwood Mac, built on what seemed unshakable. What made them different was their commitment to British electric blues. While others chased radio play, Fleetwood Mac dove deep into raw emotion that critics loved, but most people didn't understand. Their earliest releases came out on Blue Horizon, a small label with freedom, but no real money. The debut album dropped in 1968. Mr. Wonderful followed the same year. They weren't chasing hits. They were building credibility, earning respect from musicians, even if the mainstream ignored them. Then Play On arrived in 1969, a key record from the Peter Green era. Guitarist Danny Kirwan had joined, adding another layer. For a moment, they'd found their identity. But even in the beginning, the seeds of destruction were already there. Green was changing. The pressure was building. The spotlight looked appealing from outside, but felt like a trap from within. In 1970, Peter Green left. Just walked away. For most bands, that's the end. The visionary was gone. But Fleetwood Mac didn't die. They evolved. That evolution would become their pattern, their curse, their salvation. Christine Perfect joined in 1970, becoming Christine McVie after marrying John. She'd been with Chicken Shack, but now brought keyboards and completely different energy. They released Kiln House that year, then Future Games in 1971, Bare Trees in 1972, Penguin, and Mystery to Me in 1973. Heroes Are Hard to Find in 1974. Albums kept coming. Lineups kept shifting. But beneath this productivity, something was changing. They were losing their blues identity and couldn't figure out what should replace it. What fans didn't see was the cost. They'd become a band defined by turnover, by survival, by refusing to die no matter who left. In 1974 and 1975, they made a decision that changed everything. They relocated to the United States. Not for a tour. To live. To become an American band. Mick Fleetwood was at Sound City Studios in California when he heard something that stopped him cold. Buckingham Nicks. The duo's album had flopped commercially, barely registering. But Fleetwood heard possibility. He wanted Lindsey Buckingham, the guitarist and producer with obsessive attention to detail. But Lindsey had one non-negotiable condition. Stevie Nicks had to come with him. Package deal. Both or neither. So in 1975, 2 struggling California artists joined a British blues band that had lost its identity. The classic 5-member lineup was born. Mick Fleetwood, John McVie, Christine McVie, Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks. But beneath this new beginning, the old pattern was already repeating. Different faces, same pressure. And this time, the relationships were more entangled than ever before. Their first album together was simply called Fleetwood Mac, released in 1975. It became their first U.S. #1 album. After years of critical respect and commercial struggle, they'd finally broken through. Rhiannon became Stevie's signature. Landslide turned into an anthem that would outlive the band. Say You Love Me showed Christine's gift for perfect pop that felt effortless. They were filling stadiums. Radio played them constantly. Critics who dismissed them as a blues band now called them the sound of a generation. But beneath this triumph, the real cost was building quietly. They'd gone from blues purists to pop stars overnight. Touring became nonstop. Money rolled in. 5 very different personalities were trapped together in cars, planes, hotels, studios with no escape. The lifestyle divergence was showing. The pressure was escalating. And then the relationships started cracking in ways that couldn't be repaired. What fans didn't see was this. By late 1976, all 5 members were barely holding it together personally, even as their professional success reached unimaginable heights. And that's where the trouble began. John and Christine McVie's marriage was collapsing. Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, who'd insisted on joining together, had broken up but still had to work side by side every day. Mick Fleetwood's own marriage was falling apart. 5 people, 3 relationships dying simultaneously. And they had to make an album together. On February 4th, 1977, Rumours hit the world. It wasn't just an album. It was a cultural earthquake. The themes came directly from real breakups happening inside the band. Every song was a diary entry, a confession, a weapon aimed at someone 10 feet away in the same studio. Dreams was written and sung by Stevie Nicks. On June 18, 1977, it hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the only Fleetwood Mac song ever to reach that peak. Go Your Own Way was Lindsey writing about his split with Stevie, and she had to sing backup on a song about their relationship ending. Don't Stop was Christine somehow finding optimism in her marriage wreckage. The Chain became the only song credited to all 5 members, perfect symbol of people bound together, even as they tore each other apart. You Make Loving Fun. Songbird as the B-side to Dreams. Every track was loaded with emotion that came from lived experience, not imagination. Rumours won the Grammy for Album of the Year in 1978. They took home 2 Grammys that night. Both the 1975 self-titled album and Rumours would later be inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. The Rumours tour launched February 24, 1977, and ran until August 30, 1978. 96 shows across 5 legs. North America, Europe, UK, Japan, Oceania. Everywhere they went, crowds screamed for songs written about the people standing next to them on stage. But that moment of glory was also the beginning of the end. Because while they looked unstoppable on stage, everything off stage was cracking. They'd achieved success most artists only dream about, and it was destroying them from the inside out. The trigger wasn't one dramatic moment. It was the slow realization that success hadn't solved anything. It made everything worse. They couldn't escape each other. Touring was relentless. Expectations suffocated. The emotional warfare that created Rumours didn't stop when the album finished. Performing those songs night after night, reliving their worst moments in front of thousands, made the wounds fresh every time. In 1979, they released Tusk, experimental, sprawling, their attempt to break free from the Rumours formula. More artistic, more ambitious. It proved they were trying to evolve, but the cracks were too deep. By 1982's Mirage, the classic lineup was still intact, but barely. They could make music together. They could be professional. But the magic that came from genuine connection was fading. The real cost was building quietly, and what fans didn't see was that success had turned them into prisoners of their own creation. Then came Tango in the Night in 1987. It became their second biggest selling studio album after Rumours. Hit #7 on the Billboard 200, spent over 7 months in the top 20, went triple platinum in the US. In the UK, it hit #1 multiple times between 1987 and 1988. Singles like Big Love, Little Lies, Everywhere, and Seven Wonders proved they could still create hits. But the cost was too high. By this point, all members were pursuing high-profile solo careers. They didn't need Fleetwood Mac anymore. Not financially, not creatively. The band had become an obligation, a reminder of everything they'd lost. In 1987, right after Tango in the Night, Lindsey Buckingham left. Not just quit, walked away from the entire circus. The architect of their sound, the producer who'd shaped their biggest albums, was done. This was the lowest moment, though not the way you'd expect. It wasn't instruments seized or a public disaster. It was the quiet realization that 5 people who'd created something magical together could barely stand to be in the same room. They'd traded intimacy for fame, and the exchange rate had been brutal. The band without Lindsey wasn't the same band. They continued into the 1990s with new members and shifting lineups, releasing Behind the Mask in 1990 and Time in 1995. But everyone knew these weren't the real Fleetwood Mac. They were a version, a tribute to what had been. In the aftermath, the five members scattered. Stevie Nicks launched a solo career that rivaled her work with the band. She became an icon independent of Fleetwood Mac, proving she didn't need them to be legendary. Lindsey Buckingham dove into experimental solo projects, embracing artistic freedom he never fully had within the group. McVie stepped back from the spotlight, choosing peace over fame. Mick Fleetwood and John McVie kept the band name alive, recruiting new members, touring with different lineups, maintaining the brand even when the heart was gone. Then in 1997, something unexpected happened. The classic lineup reunited for a major performance. After years of separation, after all the pain, they came back together. The live album and video, the dance documented that reunion era, and for a moment, healing seemed possible. Fans who'd grown up with Rumours got to see the five of them on stage again. The chemistry was still there. The song still worked. But the story wasn't over. In 1998, just 1 year after the reunion, McVie left the band again. She'd had enough. The brief reconnection hadn't healed the deeper wounds. She wanted out, and this time she meant it. Fleetwood Mac was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1998. Mick Fleetwood, John McVie, McVie, Stevie Nicks, Lindsey Buckingham, Peter Green, Danny Kerwin, and Jeremy Spencer all made the list. Sheryl Crow introduced them. They performed Landslide, Big Love, and Say You Love Me. It should have been a celebration. Instead, it felt like a memorial for something already dead. Decades later, the battle became about legacy. The band released Say You Will in 2003, their most recent studio album. McVie was absent, proving the classic lineup was finished. The album existed but felt like a ghost. In 2014, Christine rejoined for tours. Another chance, another attempt to recapture what they'd lost. For a few years, it almost worked. They toured. They played the hits. Fans came out in massive numbers. Then in 2018, Lindsey Buckingham was removed from the touring lineup. Not by choice. Fired. Neil Finn and Mike Campbell replaced him. The band kept going, but everyone knew this wasn't right. You can't replace the architect and expect the building to stand the same. The final full tour with McVie ended in 2019. On November 30th, 2022, McVie passed away. She was 79, one of the most gifted songwriters of her generation. The steady presence who'd held the band together through so many storms was gone. Stevie Nicks responded with a statement that killed any remaining hope. Fleetwood Mac would not reunite. Ever. Without Christine, there was no point. The magic required all five of them, and now that was impossible. The emotional warfare never really ended. It just changed forms. Who owned the songs? Who had the right to tour under the name? Who could claim to be the real Fleetwood Mac? Millions were at stake. Identities were contested. Lifelong refusals to reconcile became permanent. In 2024 and 2025, Mick Fleetwood and Lindsey Buckingham reunited in the studio for a separate project. Reminder that some connections never fully break, even when they can't be what they once were. Meanwhile, something bizarre happened in 2020. Dreams re-entered the charts because of a viral TikTok video. Nathan Apodaca skateboarding, drinking ocean spray, listening to Dreams. The video exploded. Suddenly a song from 1977 was back in the Billboard Hot 100 Top 20. A new generation discovered Fleetwood Mac, not knowing the pain behind the music. The pre-Fleetwood Mac album, Buckingham Nicks from 1973, the record that flopped but led to Lindsey and Stevie joining, was announced for remastered reissue on September 19, 2025. First official CD and digital release. Even their failures were part of the legend. Today, Fleetwood Mac exists in fragments. Mick Fleetwood and John McVie keep the name alive. Stevie Nicks tours solo, occasionally acknowledging the band but refusing to reunite. Lindsey Buckingham works on his own projects. Still brilliant, still difficult, still the visionary who couldn't fit inside anyone's box. Total discography: 18 studio albums, 10 live albums, 23 compilation albums, over 60 singles. Over 120 million records sold worldwide. Their sound defined Anglo-American pop rock in the late 1970s and influenced generations. The group's history is often described as multiple bands in one. The Peter Green Blues era. The transitional years with Christine. The classic Buckingham Nicks lineup. The post-Buckingham experiments. Each version was real. Each version mattered. But it's the classic five-member lineup people remember. Those five who loved each other, hated each other, created masterpieces together, and destroyed each other in the process. Their internal drama directly fueled the songwriting on Rumours, turning private pain into public art. Despite lineup chaos, despite decades of dysfunction, Fleetwood Mac remain one of the most influential rock bands of all time. Their legacy spans blues, rock, pop rock, and stadium-era superstardom over nearly 6 decades. They prove success and harmony aren't the same thing. They showed the world you can create beauty in the middle of destruction. They left behind songs that still resonate because the emotions were real. In the end, Fleetwood Mac became exactly what their story suggested, a legendary band that couldn't survive its own success. The very thing that made them great, raw emotional honesty, intense creative partnerships, total commitment to the music, destroyed them. Christine McVie's death in 2022 closed the final chapter. There will be no reunion, no farewell tour, no healing moment where the five stand together one last time and prove love can survive anything. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some things aren't meant to be healed. Maybe some wounds stay open as proof of what happened, what was risked, what was lost in pursuit of perfection. Fleetwood Mac gave us Rumours. They gave us dreams. They gave us songs that defined a generation. And the price they paid for that gift was each other. What part of this story hits you hardest? Did you see them live during any era? Could they have survived if they'd handled things differently? Or was the collapse inevitable the moment success arrived? Drop your thoughts below. If this story fascinated you, hit that like button and subscribe because the rise and fall of legendary bands is something we'll keep exploring. You won't want to miss what's next.